Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. I'm going to be back in the kitchen today for my next video on wonderful dishes you can make with the vegetables you grew in your garden. So what's on tap for today? I'm going to show you how to roast beets in the oven, and then we'll make a salad which will have the best salad dressing you've ever tasted. So let's get started. My go-to beet variety is either called cylindra or cylindrical, and I am really crazy about it because they're super easy to grow and they give you good sized roots. Other great varieties include Detroit Dark Red, Golden, and Chioggia. So I'm going to grab about 6 beets now. We store our beet harvest in bins filled with lightly moistened straw. This works really well for keeping them pretty fresh. And we have the bin out in our garage, which is insulated, but it's not heated, so it is quite chilly out here. There's a nice one. The first thing you want to do is wash your beets. You do not need to peel them because they'll bleed like crazy. So I just get any extra soil off of the root. And then when it comes to the foliage, you want to trim it back to about 1 inch in length. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit and make sure that the rack inside is about midway down so there's room for the top of the lid on your casserole dish to fit. And I like to use about a 2 or 2.5 quart size dish. Here we go. Add water to the bottom of the casserole dish so it's about 1 inch deep. That looks good. Put the lid on top and put it into your preheated oven. How long do beets take to roast? Well, the smaller ones can take about 40 minutes and large ones can take between 60 and 90 minutes. So you just have to check on them every now and then and see how they're doing. Replenish the water if it gets down significantly low, although I've almost never had to do that. And then you want to take a fork and every so often just poke it into that main part of the root and see if it feels tender. You don't want it to be hard as a rock, and you don't want it to be mushy. So it's that little Goldilocks zone right in the middle. Okay, I just took the beets out of the oven. You can see they are super hot. Be careful of that hot steam when you take the lid off. And I have poked them with a fork, and they are looking good. So now I want to just let them cool down. Well, I'm out in our hoop house right now picking some lettuce. And gosh, it's cold out here, but as you can see, the lettuce plants and spinach plants are doing great, even though this is not heated in any way. I've just got this little plastic polytunnel and then floating row cover on top of each bed, and that actually warms up the zone in here by providing them with that extra cover. Pretty slick. So I've got some butter crunch lettuce. Here's some red sales. It's almost easier to pick with my fingers, really, except that everything's so cold. And then I've got spinach over here. I'll incorporate some of that into the salad I'm making tonight. It's such a treat to come out here and pick in the dead of winter. Well, this ought to be enough. I need a bigger bowl. Okay, I promised you we'd make a yummy salad with a fantastic salad dressing, so let's do that next. As you can imagine, red beets are a bit staining, but don't let that put you off. I'm just wearing just a simple little disposable glove, which actually I'll wash and reuse a few times. But what I'm doing is just helping the skin peel off. A lot of times you can just sort of push on it like this and it comes off really easily. So I'm just getting rid of the skin because you don't want that on there. Just a little bit more on here. There we go. Okay, so that is a skinless beet. And so I'm going to chop it into some chunks next. I'm actually going to use a knife to cut the lettuce leaves because I have a reputation in our family of tearing rather large strips that are embarrassing to eat in public. So I'm just cutting the leaves 2 ways so that I won't have this reputation anymore, just to make the leaves a little nicer size. So there we go. How's that? So I've got a plate and I'm going to make a bed of these leaves to start out with. That's a nice size salad. Okay, so let's start assembling it. Here are the chunks of beets, and so I'm going to put a nice amount of those on the top. I mean, if you just roasted your beets, you got to eat them, right? Because they are so good. So that's a pretty good size serving. Sorry, I'm a lefty, so I'm in the way. We grew some red of Florence onions this year, and so I'm just putting a little bit of sort of a minced amount of the red onions. Next, I'm going to put in a few oven roasted pecans. Now, if you have never roasted any pecans or walnuts in the oven, I have to tell you, it is so easy. All you do is preheat the oven to 350 degrees. You put them in on a baking sheet for 10 minutes and they're done. It is so easy. You can keep them once they cool and use them for all kinds of stuff. And then here is some feta cheese. I'm being messy here. Now, if you don't like feta cheese or you don't have any on hand, other options would be gorgonzola cheese, which adds a nice bite, or blue cheese would do that as well, or goat cheese. Goat cheese and beets totally go together. So now let's make the dressing that I promised you. Okay, now I have to tell you, first of all, this recipe is not mine. I had this dressing on a salad when I was visiting a friend a couple of years ago, and I immediately fell in love with it. I don't know if she designed the recipe herself or if she found it somewhere, but I think you will agree that it is fabulous. So you're going to laugh at me because I've made this so many times. I'm not going to use any measuring devices, but I will give you the proportions so you know what to do. So the things you're going to need are a light olive oil, although you could certainly use a regular olive oil for it, balsamic vinegar, stone ground mustard, a little bit of granulated sugar, and a little bit of salt. So the first thing you want to do is to measure out 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And this is enough to make a nice sized salad for a couple of people. Then you're going to put in about a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. There we go. This is a new jar, so it might not come out right. And about a teaspoon and a half of stone ground mustard. I know that sounds weird, but just bear with me. And then about half a teaspoon of granulated sugar and a dash of salt. That's all the ingredients. And then just take a whisk Stir it together so that it's basically emulsified, so nice and thick. And then you're going to drizzle that over your salad. Well, now you know how to roast your own beets or ones from the store, how to make a tasty salad, how to roast nuts in the oven, and how to make the best salad dressing ever. Thanks so much for joining me today, everybody. I'll see you next time.